With a glow of the screen and a heart full of pride, he's talking with experts from the world far and wide, broadcasting his voice through the good and the grand, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X across the land. Every Saturday morning, he's the urology man.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, and I am the urology man. Welcome to the show. I'm Vic Senese, the host of the show. And as some of those of you that have noticed where I normally am at, I'm not. I'm traveling a bit, so I'm in Connecticut. Always able to broadcast anywhere I want to go, so that's the nice part about this show. Hey, if you're watching us live, great. Glad to have you on board. Remember, you can always check out our website at UroNurse.com to learn more about the show. Also watch all of our past episodes. And hey, you can even listen to us in your car with our audio podcast. So here's where I'm at today. We're in Connecticut visiting our 50th state for my wife. I've got one more to go and we'll have seen all the states. But what you're seeing there is a picture of her sitting out in the backyard of this Verbo that we're staying at. And they have 50 birds on site. And these are some big birds, are, macaws and African grays. The African gray talks up a storm. So she's sitting between a couple of them. So it's kind of a different experience. So, hey, it's fun to get around and see other things. But let's get on with the show. So today we have a great show for you. We're going to be welcoming Thomas Exler, the Vice President of the Association for Bladder Exstrophy Community, or ABC. Thomas is a passionate advocate and patient himself who works to connect, educate, and support patients and families living with bladder exstrophy. He brings both leadership and heart to the important mission. We're excited to hear his perspective, so let's go ahead and bring him on the screen here, as well as Lori from our show. Tom, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was born back in 1965, so I'm a little bit different than most patients you would get that would be with exstrophy. But what I'm going to say today will be something of a little bit different than you're usually getting. It's going to be more of my journey through exstrophy, my journey through teaching and presenting and going around the country and going around the world.
Great. And Tommy, as a patient, is more than glad to answer any questions that you might want to put into the comments too about his condition. Lori, for those that might not know who you are, why don't you go ahead and give us your introduction?
Good morning and welcome, Tom. My name is Lori Atkinson. I'm a certified urology registered nurse. I have been in urology for over 25 years now, and I currently work for Northwestern Medicine in Geneva and Winfield, Illinois.
And Tom and I were talking before the show started, and you got on, Lori, about how rare of a disease this is. Have you ever taken care of any patients with bladder exstrophy?
Not one. Not one.
So
and usually that's the case.
Yeah. All right, Tom, I'm going to bring on your slides and take it away.
Okay. Well, so good morning, everyone. Today, I will share with you a story of encouragement, resilience, and purpose. I was born with a difficult condition called bladder exstrophy, yet it's devoted my life to helping others. My story will be a personal challenge, but can turn life into meaningful service. Trying to get used to this system. So here's a picture of what bladder exstrophy really is. It's a condition for a congenital birth defect in which the bladder is it's not related properly and have the bladder on the outside of birth. On the left side is a female and the right side is male. It's a congenital birth defect that happens once in every 50,000 live births. So that is not that many in the U.S. And in U.S. and Canada, I think we have 5,000 cases right now. So we'll move on here. if I can get this moving. So when I was born, I was very blessed. My life was very blessed not because I was born with bladder exstrophy, but because because of the great people that I've met along this journey. And I would go back today. I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't know anything different. But the amount of people I met changed my whole perspective on being born with bladder exstrophy. So let's go back to my birthday. The birthday I had was a very interesting day. And there's 2 days born with a birth defect that is good for your birthday. One's April Fool's, and the other is my birthday. Halloween, where you come into the life scaring your parents half to death. So this is me with my mother in the center, and then the 2 pictures of when I was younger. So growing up with this, I didn't have to be the only one. See, my cousin was born with bladder exstrophy 2 weeks before I was born. And it's very rare that would happen. I had a doctor in Germany do some studies on my family. And he found that I was only one of 6 families or 8 families in the world with a person born with exstrophy. Now, it's not known to be genetic and isn't really listed as genetic. However, this happened. So here I am in the red, and over here is another boy. And that his name's also Tommy, and he's my second cousin. And if you can tell, we both had surgery. I had an ileal conduit done at age 4. And before that, I had the bladder outside my body until age 4, and it was removed because they couldn't put it back in at the time. He had the same procedure done, and he was just getting his ileal conduit done when this came in. I was back to get my bladder removed. Up here on the top left is my father in that same stay in the hospital. I was speaking at Children's Hospital Pittsburgh. And this just happens to be the only picture I can get off my computer that would show that time. So my mother created the Children's Tri-State Ostomy Association because there was many kids who had problems and issues. And my surgeon, Dr. Sukachana, along with her, developed the association, the Tri-State Ostomy Association, which had spina bifida kids, which had Crohn's kids, ulcerative colitis, Hirschsprung's, and multiple different disorders. And there we had over 600 people involved. It taught me a lot at that time, just being there, that bladder exstrophy is not that bad. So where do we go from in there? So in grade school, I had problems with kids. Of course you have problems. Everyone has problems with kids. And it wasn't the major problem. I didn't dwell on that problem. But we were working through the problems with using an ostomy product, using the catheters before. Now they're using them. It's very hard on these kids. However, they become very resilient, really reliant, and really in resourceful. So in addition to that, I grew up as a kid, normal kid, playing baseball, playing soccer, playing not Gaelic football because that came later in life. But it was very interesting and very rewarding. I started coaching baseball and soccer in my teenage years and did that up to almost 30. I joined my Gaelic football team, which this is the diagram, it's a round ball anyways. But Gaelic football was an Irish game, and it's played on a huge field, and I was a goaltender for the Pittsburgh Gaelic Clan A Gal. And Clan A Gal was in my minors, but in the upper league. I played for the Pittsburgh team, and it was very, very interesting. It's a very competitive, hard sport. So if you say you kids can't play contact sport, they have no idea. Now, in surgeries, I had multiple surgeries when I was younger. I had probably 8 to 10 surgeries going up to my early development, and like 10, 15 years old. But one surgery just came back was I was 23, 24, and it came down that I collapsed in the hospital I was working at. And it was the ileal conduit was dying. I didn't know that at the time, and we didn't know that on the x-rays, but we did know that after surgery. But in the meantime, in between that time, I was playing professional soccer, playing for the Pittsburgh team in the pro league. And what happened was I wanted to play one more game, and I was a goaltender, and I played in the field and played in the goal. And I shut them out in period 1. In period 3 and 4, I played defense. Period 4, 3 was defense. And then period 4, I played offense. Scored 2 goals in that game. I've never scored a goal in my life. So that was a really interesting time period. So you just use that as an education. Things will happen. So what we're going to move on to, like, I was 25, 26. I joined the United Ostomy Association Youth Rally. It was a very, very rally. The rally comes from all different places in the country, all different individuals. They have multiple issues. I think this past year, there was 52 different diagnoses out of 150 kids. That's incredible. But when I first came there was only 3 kids that were born with bladder exstrophy. And today, there's over 30, which is a very big improvement, especially when you have a population so small. And this has happened to be one with Abby, and you can ask questions. They got questions on their body and what they would do with it. And this was just happened to be part of the questions. Now, because of that, I was asked to go join the International Ostomy Association for 20 to 40-year-olds in Copenhagen and then again in Hamilton. And this was one of the best conferences I've ever been to, because everyone that came as leaders and people that have gone through the programs. Through the camp in Sweden, camp in Norway, the things in Germany and in Denmark and Iceland, and in the U.S. and Canada too. Now, on the trip over, there was a young lady who I asked to write, because I didn't know actually who was coming from Iceland. So I wrote this young lady and wrote her and said, I'm going to this conference in Copenhagen. Are you on this flight? I get this long letter about being born with exstrophy. There was no one I was ever expecting to be born with exstrophy over at this conference, but Ingeborg was. And I've been back there 8, 9 times. And I went there and spoke twice. So this is Ingeborg here on one of my trips through Iceland. And it's one of the relationships that you make for generations in the time. I've gone back and met, there's 11 people with exstrophy born in Iceland that I know of. Now, if you look at the statistics, that's probably more than the entire population of Iceland. So, and this just happens to be when I was in Iceland speaking. And this is very good. And this was speaking at the Ostomy Association there, but I also spoke to the Exstrophy Association. Now, when you're coming about, you have groups that would talk to. And this is part from the ABC International Conference. In the international conference I spoke at multiple conferences, but this is just one I was speaking at. And it's very entertaining when you get to meet people. It's not the speaking that's important. It's when you talk to people that's important. And individually, that's more important than anything else. So this happens to be one other place I spoke at. This happened to be the best camp out in California. This is all families, of course, but they have over 40 families that would have a patient with exstrophy. That's probably most of California. And this is one of my favorite because it's right there in Lake Tahoe, and it's very beautiful there. So, however, I'm going to say this happened to be at the AORN, the Operating Nurses Association in Pittsburgh. And this was, I was asked to go speak to them. And before I spoke there was one old lady that came up to me and asked me, he goes, "Are you Mary Exler's son?" Well, my mother is very big nurse, and she's well known, in other words to say. And I just said, "Oh, okay, yeah." And she went and sit down, and then heard my speech, came up to me afterwards and asked me, "Do you remember the day you were born?" No, I don't remember the day I was born. But the day I was born, she was working at the hospital with my mother and came to her room not knowing what to do. And they went and used the internet of the 1960s books and tried to research what I had. And this hospital was not a big hospital. It's called Pittsburgh Hospital, but it's really a small hospital. But they should go to do research, and every day they come back and try to find out what she had because the doctors really didn't know. So she told me all this stuff, and I was like flabbergasted that I would find out 35 years later or 40 years later, the nurse that actually did the research. It's very important to go out and speak. You'll never learn this stuff. So when we're going to organize things, I went and reorganized a group to recognize individuals who are extremely, let's say, become role models. And what happened is Leisha and Adam on the left here and Leisha on the right, they actually died in 2005. But one had colloquial exstrophy, one had bladder exstrophy. However, they died not of that, but he also had cystic fibrosis. And Leisha had a very, she had a blood clot that got infected and ended up dying from that. I don't know the details. However, I wanted to honor these individuals because they lived their life to the fullest. And so I honored them with an award that came out, the Courage to Shine Award. And it's made for individuals who succeed in life. And this just happened to be George Hunt. He was this year's winner of the Courage to Shine Award. And we give it each year up in our national conference. And if you want to listen to the speech, it's on courage2shine.com, courage-2-shine.com or .org. And it's on YouTube right now, but you can view it from inside the page. His story is just like every other story. It's very interesting how he tells everything and everything comes out. So One of the other places I got to go was in Australia. In Australia, it was the first award to the Courage to Shine Award. It came to this gentleman right here, Tom Flood. He was 80 years old. Well, I didn't meet anyone that was in their 80s with exstrophy. He had a very hard life, very hard life. He wasn't even repaired until he was in his 40s. And it's just an amazing job he did for a living, and his story is just powerful. So we gave him the Courage to Shine Award, and it was just one of those things. I knew we had something because the Governor General of Australia wrote me and asked me, can I recommend him for the Australian award? And I'm like, yes. So that's one of the things I'm saying. All the people I've met are wonderful people. It's just you got to get out there and be able to talk about it, see about it. So now, I went out and spoke in multiple countries, and this just happened to be when we spoke in Spain. And after this speech, myself and Misty Blue Foster, the young lady sitting right there, after our speeches, we had to stand in line for over 30 minutes because everyone wanted pictures with us. It was the most humbling experience you'll ever have. And this is one of the things. However, during that situation, I got associated with Jamie Holmes from Pittsburgh here. Jamie Holmes was not born with exstrophy, but was born with a condition called Vater's or vagal. And it was another birth defect that has multiple issues with it. I've met 20 of those kids at the youth rally. So it wasn't surprising to me. So we actually came here. I go, wait a second. Organize yourself before your team becomes valuable. Well, to let her know, she has now been on Steve Harvey's show and on the Tamara Hall show in New York. She's taken the organization from a measly pennies when they couldn't afford a $220,000 automobile to $1 million company. It's a nonprofit that's booming, and it will take people with life-threatening illnesses to the next generation. I've been on the planes to Florida filled with the kids. That when you go to a private plane to Florida with 30 kids, it's one of those amazing trips. And I've been on 3 or 4 of those. And I said, that's one of the things that I am so glad and so helpful. It's not just exstrophy. It's all everything. Now, unfortunately, I had my problems. And in April 16th, 1994, I came down with a stroke. It was very debilitating and very hard on me. Today, I have issues with speaking because of that. You might not notice it, but the reason it is I used to be able to speak off the cuff and no problems. But now I have to look at notes, and that's part of the issue. However, because of this, a month later, a young lady from the UK, and she's from actually Scotland, decided, "Kay, can I come over and visit?" And I was like, "Well, you can take my speaking engagements if you want." And so her name was Kirsten Lipton, and she came over to Pittsburgh, and then we went on our speaking tour, and we spoke in 3 different places. And she brought this doll. And the reason I suggest about Kirsten is famous people you don't really meet. But Kirsten was the winner of the Pride of Britain Award and wrote this book, Pride of Britain. And she was born with bladder exstrophy and raised $1 million for Great Ormond Children's Hospital in London. But what's great is I can't imagine all the famous people she's met. And she came here and wrote this one thing in the book. And it says, whoops. It says, thank you so much for inviting me to your home and feeling me to meet so many new, amazing people. I've learned so much more than I thought I could. Will always appreciate what you have done for me. Love, Kirsten. She doesn't know that actually helped me that week because I came back and knew I could succeed in life again. However, it took a few years for me to succeed in life because right after that, I lost my job because they couldn't keep anyone who was on who was actually on disability. So it just took me a few years to come back, but I have come back. One of the reasons I say people you can come back from is a couple people nominated me for a couple awards. And this award, the Jefferson Awards, was for people who volunteer and succeed in life. And this is a volunteer award that I got in 1995 from the Jefferson Award Committee in Pittsburgh. And this is one of my great honors. And it's very important that I share this to you. But it's not important in the long scheme. This is important. Do what you want for others because they will help you more than you can help them. And let me do this in closing. I remind us that a challenge will happen. Even one that's demanding as bladder exstrophy. Does you having to determine your own story? You do have to, what you do is in response can shape your entire life and inspire others. In final words, it's not what gifts you are given. It's what gifts you use, those gifts, that is important. So that was my short essay here of my speech. And please contact me if anyone has any information you want to talk to me about with bladderexstrophy.com, Tom, and T.E. Exler at couragetoshine.org. And my Facebook, private Facebook, and YouTube. You can see videos all over YouTube or through all the organizations I've been involved in. Go through that website. So that's a good one at Thomas Exler. And bladderexstrophy.com and couragetoshine.com. And don't forget about jamiesdreamteam.com is a great organization for people that have maybe not had exstrophy, but have all the different all the different needs. And just one example, I talked to a family last week with bladder exstrophy who came through Jamie. And they were very scared about their six-year-old son. It was very, very important to just talk to these people because they will communicate to you what's going on. And of course, all the diseases today, all the extrophy today is developed in a so much different perspective than what I had. There'll be the closures will be there on Mitrophanoffs and exotic procedures, because it depends on the doctor who does it. It always gets your name. And they would have to maybe catheterize for the rest of their life. So it's not the end of the world. So please, thank you for letting me talk to you, and please communicate. And if you have questions, please give them. Thank you.
Let's just bring.
I guess he's having trouble right now.
Sorry about that, Tom. Like I told you, out of my studio, it booted me out when I tried to turn myself back on.
Yeah.
And it was really an inspiring story. I can't imagine what it was like going through life, with not having your bladder covered, for all those years. You said you were how old when they did the?
I was 4, and I've heard even longer people in their 60, and 30, 40, 50 years old that have had it, and that, I mean, without getting anything done, that's just debilitating.
Yeah. And then after you had, ileal conduit, which you said, nowadays most patients are having, repair bladder closure early on, within about, I think, the first week.
Yeah, they'll get in there's a group out of Philadelphia, Boston, and Wisconsin Children's. They work as a team, and they would delay it for like almost a month, so they can all fly in and do it. And what they do, realize what they did is they all get experience. And in addition to that, we actually, ABC, which I wish I could actually fund myself to go to these places, but we actually have 2 different missions, one in India and one in Uganda. The one in India does over 100 surgeries on extrophy patients in a week. So just imagine that, how much your team comes over and gets experience in a week that would take years in the United States to be able to get to.
Yeah. And some of these kids, besides the bladder, protruding through at birth, have genital issues where there's other side congenital abnormalities that they're repairing.
Right. There's a lot of genital ideas. One good thing, we're talking about this, extrophy is a spectrum. So not one thing that one patient will say can be contributed to another patient. So, but in most cases, there's a congenital birth defect also. It starts because extrophy starts with epispadias, which is the split of the penis, and all the way up through what called colloquial extrophy, where the organs from the upper beyond the bladder are out. So the intestines, a lot of them have short bowel on top of it. And I've spoken with a lot of these individuals, and they just mind-boggling, make me look bad, because they're just very, very the people. They're just very precise, and they have so many complications. And I just honored that I actually got to know them.
Yeah, I can really tell that the getting involved in the advocacy was a big thing for your life.
Right, and that all came down to what my mother founded with her organization, and like I said, what I gave here was just an overview, because the amount of things I've spoken at or been to has been in the hundreds and hundreds of cases. So it's just an amazing going on, and there's so many people that I've actually. Famous people I actually met that with extrophy you won't even know, and it's such a rare disorder, but it becomes such a a tight-knit community. And the one good thing is the rare diseases. I've been at the rare diseases conference, and they're saying being born with this particular disease is rare, but a rare disease is common. So, because there's so many rare diseases, that it becomes common over 51% of the cases in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't, out there in the audience that's watching, anybody that's known patients that have had bladder exstrophy or not. Lori and I were talking earlier. We haven't seen it in our practices. I had some because I had a pediatric urologist in our practice, but Lori, in general practice, you haven't seen it, right?
No.
No, and that's part of the problem, because they're all looking for someone with continuation of care. And the problem in Pittsburgh is I don't actually have a urologist I can speak of, but I do have a urologist I can go talk to. So in her practice, the only reason I went to her was because she was a resident with a person that had exstrophy. So that's what was the connection. And I just have with her, but luckily I've been one of the blessed that I haven't had many infections, which is a rare case to be. And
kidney function has been good. I know that's always been kind of an issue.
Yeah, my renal functions. Well, there's a problem with renal function. I mean, I do know with people that have had long time problems. But I probably about 80%. So that's pretty good for what I had, because you have damage when you're younger.
Sure.
So, but I've been very lucky, very lucky that I haven't had the major complications.
And it sounds like you lived a pretty normal life. Played soccer, you got out and had a career.
Yeah. And like I said, the biggest thing I have is a stroke. And I say that came up all of a sudden because I was doing good. I was having a great life.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes things happen to you to make you humble. And that made me humble. And but I was able to do that year, was able to help others, and for others to come here and speak and take over. So
well, it seems like you've really made a career out of advocating for this particular cause too, getting to travel around the world.
Right, and it's not just, and I'm not limited to just exstrophy. I'm totally spectrum on all the different issues, and that's one of the reasons with Jamie is you get to meet people that they're sick, they're waiting for cancer treatments, and they're kids that need help. We've done weddings for individuals who actually were going to die in 3-4 weeks, and they did. And it's very humbling to help them. And it's one of the things I told Jamie. I said, you got to get this all in video. You got to do this. You got to do that. And she has done it. And she has really become an amazing person. And it's a great friend that I have. And she's happened to be local. So things work out for the best.
Yep. Now, you mentioned you had a cousin that also had exstrophy. He's doing okay?
Yeah, he is, but we don't talk to each other much anymore. He's moved away. His parents did the opposite of what my mother did and my father did. It's one of those conditions you don't want to speak about it. People might know.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's a bigger problem because these kids become adults and they become needing the support or needing to help others or wanting to help someone else. And we find that with the bladder exstrophy adults who they don't know where to go. And I think in the long run, it actually hurts you than help you.
Now, the organization, the Bladder Exstrophy, is this a strong organization still going on, or is this one that's
No, it's a strong organization going on, but we definitely need resources.
Yeah,
because
like everybody else now, right?
Yeah, right. Because Pamela Block, who took over for mine, I was president before, and she asked me to stay on as vice president. And Pamela, Pamela Block Ortigas, but she went over and went with a couple of doctors to India and started establishing a foundation there, and then reorganized something in Uganda, and they're going to try to start something in the Philippines. I mean, this stuff takes money, and each person that goes on these missions have to supply their own resources to get there. So it is very money wise. Now on the and that's because I can't go because it's very costly, but I'm actually going to Europe to Spain in a few weeks. We're going to be organizing an international a conference, or international group to be able to filter all these things through, because there's so many countries that don't have support groups. That there is a group that you can maybe get involved in, maybe in the next country over, or close enough that you can actually get to know people. So we're going to develop that, and then we're going to have our own conference in 2026, hopefully in Barcelona. So it's
there are
very
conferences in the U.S. too going on.
Oh yeah, we have a conference each year in the U.S. It moves around. Next year it's going to be at Los Angeles Children's Hospital, and then the year after that it's going to be in Toronto at Sick Kids. So it's going to be this year it was in Boston at Boston Children's. Well, it was in a hotel close to Boston Children's, but Boston Children's sponsored it, and it's one of those things. It's just on a weekend. We had people this year who came from Mexico and all over Canada, and there was one family that came from all the way from Hawaii.
Wow!
So just think about that. That's a lot for a weekend.
Yeah, that is. Well, do you have any questions, Lori, or I don't see anything that came through.
No, I appreciate you sharing your story. You truly are an inspiration. As a panelist, I don't have much to say on this because I have no idea. But it's really good to hear your story and how you inspire others. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear, get the story out there that there is somebody out doing stuff that's advocating and things that if you've got this problem, at least maybe we shown a little bit of a light on it for you today too. Exactly.
And every little snippets on the internet will help people in the right direction and where to point to. And if just so you know, if anyone does get it, go to the ABC website, bladderexstrophy.com. There is a international organization, Centers of Excellence in the U.S., and we just named one for a Center of Excellence in Barcelona. And but there are places that people will speak. That would be a place to start, not the place to end, because there's other places in between you might be able to find. But they maybe haven't applied for the Center of Excellence yet.
All right, very good. All right, I've got a little plug-in for next week's show.
Meet Kwame Tere, CEO of Beer Health, a trailblazer, who is redefining what it means to merge athletic excellence with healthcare innovation. In April 2025, Kwame set a world record with 2 million steps in 30 days. It was a statement of resilience, wellness, and weaving health in a daily life. Kwame's journey highlights the upcoming Bayer Health app, built to make health a core part of Black culture through community access and lifestyle change. Blending record-breaking athleticism, grit, and tech innovation, his story inspires a new vision of wellness. Join us on September 27th at 9 a.m. Central Time to learn more.
Yeah, join us next week. Interested in hearing what Kwame has to say about this new app he's built to try to help improve health in an area where, especially with all of us dealing with prostate cancer, the Black population having much higher levels. So looking forward to hearing that next week. And Lori, have a great rest of your day. Tom, again, thanks for being part of the show and sharing your story with us today. And I'm off to go on vacation and go see Mark Twain's home today.
Oh,
Enjoy yourself.
All righty, everybody. We'll see everyone next week.
Thank
you.
My live studio.
So here's to the mornings, the coffee, the monitor glow, to the wisdom he shares and the folks that he knows. Saturday is special when Vic's on the stream with 40 years of knowledge and a head full of dreams.